still? What's going on in Nebraska?
So we haven't seen anything definitive yet. The local newspaper here in Lincoln recently published an article that had some of the ideas that the district had. So some of these things were like kids would only go to school for half a day. Like they would either be assigned for a morning session or an afternoon session, or maybe it would be like every other week. And so when the local newspaper published this on Facebook, I don't get on there very much, but by the time I saw it, there were like 364 comments on the post, and I didn't read them all, but I didn't actually see any that said, "Oh, these sound like good ideas." Like pretty much all the comments were like, "What? Are you kidding me?" Nobody seemed to like those ideas at all. And so I'm very curious how it's going to go because we don't have any other options here. We have no education savings accounts or tax credit scholarships or anything. It's just public schools. And so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, to see if parents say not acceptable, come up with something else, or if people just go along with it or withdraw kids. I can't predict how it's going to go in the fall and what parents are going to do with it.
That's interesting. And it stinks that Nebraska has no options, but homeschooling is an option. That's a good option. And hopefully it's in your state constitution that that parents can outsource or hire a tutor or bring in a tutor. Does that exist at least? Like even if like
as far as funding?
No, so it wasn't initially in our homeschool legislation in North Carolina that basically the parent had to be the educator, no one else. So I couldn't bring in you if you were like an American Sign Language expert. I couldn't necessarily have you leading instruction in my school. It was more limited, so now it's more flexible.
Yeah, actually, our homeschool laws are pretty good, pretty flexible, and our homeschool laws allow for you to part-time homeschool if you want to. So I wonder if that might grow a little bit, where people bring their kids home, but if they don't want to handle biology lab or something, send them for that. Or I don't even know if they'll have choir, but maybe something like that so that they can get some of those group activities. Maybe that will be an option that parents use. But if more parents use that, the state's going to have to rethink the way they fund schools because it's not built for those outliers. In the past, those have been the outliers. Only a few kids do that. So if more do it, there will have to be some significant adjustments with the way they fund school, I think.
Yeah, that's one thing in Virginia they were talking about. Like I said, they want to have some options for fully remote for very vulnerable populations. And I'm even thinking about teachers because I think there's probably a lot of teachers who are concerned about their own health and going back. But they were talking about funding and how, the schools, were not set up to work this way. So we need more funding. And it's just going to be interesting because, again, if people do pull their kids out and the way that, like you said, the schools are funded now by how many students attend. And so then if there's fewer students, then how are you going to, get these resources, for more robust, online learning for some of these vulnerable populations. So should be.
So in North Carolina, they were not consistent in getting the virtual option up and running. And so I think they maybe just threw their hands up and said, okay, we're going to close the schools. I think early to maybe mid-March was when they kind of, and then similar to what you were saying, Rebecca, they had packets sent home. Everything was review material. And if it was optional, why would you do it? Teenager, why would you do it? I wouldn't do it if I was a teen. But if I was striving for that great GPA, how's it going to impact me if I'm a senior trying to get into college? I don't know. But in North Carolina, the governor has suggested that we have a plan A, B, and C, and he's going to decide on July 1st. And so everybody's clinging to the edge of their seats to try to figure out what he's going to decide. So we have a state board of education that is multiple parties represented on that state board. And, God forbid they question anything that the governor suggests right now. And if someone does question it, it seems like everyone is deflecting back to the governor. So it's interesting because America was not founded on one person leading everybody, right? We have systems of checks and balances, and those apply to our state government, people. So it's really, so people want to maybe attack, the executor of the state, but it really trickles down to everybody. So lots of appointed officials and elected officials as well, and then all the way down to the county leaders and the local school boards. So I hear a lot of spending coming up. So on the local level, I hear the school board talking about, well, how many busing shifts are we going to have if we can only fit 11 children on a bus with social distancing with the 6 feet of social distancing? And then someone might ask, well, do you need that 6 feet of social distancing if Angela, Rachel, and Rebecca are all wearing masks sitting next to each other? And then they don't have answers for that. So it's just like a reminder of being in the government-run school. You have to ask permission to go to the bathroom. Can I come up to the board? It's just crazy. Like all these, they don't know how to react. But one good thing I do see coming out of it is parents are pushing back a little bit and saying, can we have some virtual option? So in the state of North Carolina, when it comes to virtual options that already exist, they're capped. So we have like 2 virtual public charter schools that any one of us could use if we lived in the state. So you can use charters across county lines. So you can expand that on the State Board of Education level, like lift that cap, but they're not doing that. So what's going to happen instead is force everybody into that government-run school and consider a virtual option there, like a permanent virtual, which hybrids, I don't have a problem with hybrids. I don't have a problem with the government-run school being more flexible, but we should be flexible across the state too, not just favor one over the other. So if you can imagine the expenses with just 11 children and hearing the numbers like, oh, that's 25% of the children who actually ride the school buses, then compounding that with knowing that we were not able to, just in this local school district, we were not able to staff adequately for bus drivers in the county. So I have no idea what they're going to do. And then talking about putting nurses in the schools, in every school to do temperature checks. That's a huge expense. And then they just our county just passed the budget, which was an additional a new 14 million that came down through the CARES Act to help the local district implement social or distance learning. Sorry, I'm messing up social distancing with distance learning, right? So I do like having the opportunity to do the distance learning. I appreciated that in college, even though I didn't finish. But it was super convenient to stay home some days and then maybe report on some required days. But who knows where it's going to go? Plan A, B, and C, and then you can start out with plan A and then go to plan B or C and then go back to A later. It's going to be madness. And everybody's waiting on the governor to decide. It's just like, good luck. Homeschool.
Yeah, that's what I've been preaching when I have the courage to get online, because sometimes I have to get off because it's just too much. But what about Rachel? Did you want to jump in, or
No, go ahead.
I was wondering about janitorial services. Are we going to need to increase that? Because I had to take my son to the dermatologist, and they only let you use the bathroom if it's an emergency, because they have to clean it every time somebody uses it.
Oh, man.
Yes, I know.
That came up too. That came up in the board meeting today. But and then they're deciding what a frequently touched surface is, and one of the board
school, like everything. I mean, kids. touch every like. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how you would unless you just spray everything down, every